Okay, good morning everyone, or afternoon, depending on when you're watching this. Welcome to my dining room at the moment. So I've been meaning to do these videos for a little while. I think it's a useful point that we normally have a bit of a check-in at the end of term regarding the pad portfolio, but I thought it's worthwhile now so you can start to think about moving forward what you might need to complete. I'm sure people have got some sort of standard questions that I'm hoping that I can go over today, just so I can make everyone kind of up to the same speed. Also, the portfolio is a bit of an unusual assessment in that you don't have to complete it in the normal time frame of the normal uni year. You have the summer to complete stuff as well. So it's worthwhile just taking stock now that we've got to the end of term. So I'm sure you're all happy the exams are over. So take stock now, see what you've got completed, what we need to get done, and then hopefully I'm going to take you through some of the different aspects of the portfolio where you might have questions or there might be bits you weren't quite sure of, because there's plenty of time now to start to look at these ahead of next year. Okay, so these are going to all be quite short videos, and I'm hoping to sort of do them kind of punchy so you get the key points in each of them. So there's going to be 5 in total. This is very much the intro video where I'm going to go through kind of some of the overall aspects of the portfolio. So if you're not quite sure what it was all about, this is a good place to start. Obviously, you can dip into whichever video you feel is most appropriate to you, but it's always good to start at this kind of point at least. So this is going to be your intro video. I'm going to do one specific video on CPDs, so continual professional development or continuous professional development, however you want to quite define it. I'm then going to move on to monographs. So it's kind of the two main elements, I suppose, in terms of the what the most documents you have to complete. So I'm going to go through roughly how you should be completing those. Now I know you've had sessions throughout the year on these, so this is very much just a recap. It's not going to be a tell-all, but it's a good point just for you if you want a quick talk through with me in terms of what I would expect. It's a good point now to do that. I'm also going to do one on the CBA. So video 4 will be about the business element. So I know I've had a few questions a little bit about what you need is to complete and what the workbook and how we need to use the workbook. So this video will go through a little bit about the importance of it, where it's all leading to, and how to actually complete those parts of the workbook. The final one I'm going to do, which is video 5, will be about actually how to upload your documents to the online portfolio platform through Blackboard. So this will be very much more of sort of video run through. So you'll be able to see how I would upload them. So I'm going to show you my Blackboard and how I would do it myself, just so if you're not sure. I know lots of students so far have just been sort of collecting the files and not quite sure what to do with them at this point, which is absolutely fine. It's kind of what I advised at this point. But I'll be able to show you how you need to sort of start forming that kind of final portfolio as we go. Okay, so we'll go through some of the introductory stuff now. So I'm going to switch to a PowerPoint, and then I'll take you through some of the sort of overviews within the portfolio. Okay, so as a bit of a start point, I think it's always worthwhile taking you through Blackboard and just where to find everything. Again, a lot of you would have explored this yourself, but again, it's something easy and straightforward for me to show you where everything is, just in case you're not quite sure. So obviously this is my Blackboard, so yours might look a little bit different. So I can still take you through as you would if a student. So the key component is you need to go to your My Organizations section. So it'll normally appear on the right hand side. Again, depending on how you've got it laid out, it may look a little bit different. Obviously you won't have many units as I have on the left. But on the right is really where we're going for the portfolio. It's just because the portfolio doesn't sit directly in any one unit. Hence it says an organization rather than a point where you normally enter your units itself. So if we go to our student development portfolio, again, there'll be other things that you guys won't see because I've got access to more, but if you go to your student development portfolio, it'll take you through to the portfolio main page. So this is where you have access to pretty much everything you should require. Now, as you can see here, I've set up different pages for each of the different years. So you can access it by, if you ever need to go back, you can obviously just click back here. Just because the information changes a little bit from each year, and again, all years are kind of lumped together on this organization, so you're not split up into separate organizations. So for the moment, for you in year 1, please only really access the stuff in year 1. You could have a look at year 2 and year 3 if you really wanted to, but it either won't make sense or remember things may change slightly from year to year, so it might not all be 100% relevant. So stick to your part 1 students box for the moment. So if we just have a look in here, you'll see the key different sections within the portfolio. So you'll see there's communications announcements, so some of the important stuff I'll put here. We've got careers management, self-development, clinical knowledge, research skills, and feedback and assessment records. So that's all the different sections you could possibly want within the portfolio. Obviously, each one has slight requirements and slightly different areas it's trying to test you on, or not test you on, or record information in. So if we just go to the communications part, you'll see there's not a lot there. Anything that you sort of grayed out is stuff that you can't see. So this is kind of stuff that only I can have access to. So you should just see the intro slide is a good place to go back to if you're not sure about the portfolio at all. So this will be the lecture that I gave back. It will seem a long time ago now, back in October or possibly November, with some audio. So if you're not sure where to start at all, you can obviously go and revisit those slides. I'll be using some of those slides today. There's information on the business element. So again, I tried to keep all that stuff together as well. But again, we'll talk more about the CBA in its own part. So the other elements, so again, everything's kind of kept together. So if you're not sure what goes where, you can click into our different areas. There's normally a little bit of an explanation at the start telling you what the area is about. And it will tell you what the requirements are in that particular area. So for instance, if we have a look at careers management, it'll say that we'd like you to have an up-to-date CV. Again, we'll talk about the CBA at a later point. If you've done Study Smart, this is where this area goes. Again, things like the Red Award and LinkedIn, these are the areas where they'll get placed. And when I say get placed, it means that in the final portfolio, when you put it all together, that those documents will be in that section. Just sort of keeps things nice and tidily together. The only other important thing, and you can explore all of these in their own, we'll talk about maybe some of the individual ones in other videos, but the documents templates is the really important part if you're not sure where to find any of the documents. So if you click on that, it takes you to all the blank forms. So these are all the forms you should be using to fill in the relevant documents. Okay, so I don't expect you to make them up from scratch. You should be using these templates. Now, yours are slightly different because obviously we've switched to an online system from your year moving forward. So you obviously need to make sure that you click on the Part 1 Forms and Templates 2019-2020. So these are the templates that you guys should be using. So if you click into here, you'll see a long list of templates. Some you won't even need to have started using yet. So we've not even talked about things like planned CPDs. That happens in the second year. But any sort of template you have here, and normally they've got a bit of a brief explanation of what you need to do for each of them. So that's just where to find everything. There's not too much else that you'll need to use within this section. There are Padlets open as well. So if you have any particular questions, you can enter into the Padlet. So SOS set this up specifically for CPDs, but you can write more generalized questions, and we will have a look at these when there are points put up. Otherwise, obviously, you can contact us specifically if you have direct questions, but that's more of a generalized area to go. Okay, so that's Blackboard itself. Please have an explore. The main bits obviously you're using are your Part 1 Pharmacy student folder, and then within your documents, your Part 1 forms and templates. Other than that, everything else is kind of contained within each of those folders, and we'll talk through each of those in separate videos. So where we're going to start is actually with what the portfolio is. Hopefully most of you are more than happy with what the portfolio is being used for, but it's a good place to start at least. This ends up being quite a big document of work, and it's a good place to sort of show you off as a student. Okay, we're looking at lots of those skills that it's very hard to assess through an exam or through a sort of practical assessment, and it gives each student a chance to personalize what they learn a little bit and actually show off those things that they're good at and the things that interest them within pharmacy. We kind of pitch as being a working reflective document, so it's a chance for you to reflect back on lots of the work that you do. Again, a lot of it just doesn't filter into assessments. You learn lots of important skills throughout, which are there to sort of help you develop in the future far beyond just the course itself, but as you as pharmacists moving forward. It's a good area to collate lots of information as well. So it showcases all those different elements that you've been learning, whether that's from the chemical science of things, to practice, to pharmaceutics, to pharmacology. So all the elements can be present within this one document, which is actually quite unique in terms of how we're able to show it off. And it also builds in lots of those other sort of personal skills, whether it's things relating to careers, that are actually useful beyond just the core pharmacy knowledge. So there are lots of principles and sort of lots of areas that are brought together within this portfolio. It's a good way of actually showing you all off as being different. Everyone's very different in terms of what they like and how they learn and what they kind of showcase themselves. So it's a real good place to show your achievements, not just the achievements you achieve on a day-to-day working as a student, but I know lots of you do other things outside of university which are really important in building you as a character. So it's a good place to showcase all those achievements that you do, all your different abilities and how you like to learn. It's one of those kind of unique pieces of work where we do let you have free reign to a certain extent, obviously within the boundaries that we kind of set. But in terms of managing your time, managing how you complete these documents, is all down to you in reality, which is able to show you actually more realistic what working life is like, where you're obviously having to push your own goals and doing work around the things that are going on at the time. It's a chance for you to actually start building some research skills as well. So there's a research element where you start to sort of compile information. And again, this is not somewhere where you get loads of experience elsewhere. So there's a few unique tasks where you're able to collate research from areas that interest you and actually write about them. And then we can sort of constructively talk to you about how we feel your skills are and if there are improvements that can be made. So it's a lot about developing you as a student, as a researcher, as a pharmacist in terms of those. Now, in kind of a professional sense, it is really important as well. So CPDs will continue throughout the rest of your careers. It's all about developing. Pharmacy doesn't stay still. So you're forever trying to push yourself, learn new things, and actually getting used to the way that you should formulate those is quite important. So the GPHC will get you to complete CPDs for the rest of your careers, and is writing about those new skills that you've been learning, why they're important to you, and how you're going to impact or sort of implement them in your practice. So it's a good way of documenting your kind of progression in your career. So, as I'm sure you're aware, that the portfolio is split up into sections just to make it slightly more manageable. So lots of different areas that focus on key elements of your learning. So there is a careers element here. So careers doesn't often crop up hugely, I suppose, in specific skills in pharmacy. We kind of introduce elements from time to time, but this is a good area to sort of develop those things, simple things like writing CVs, and actually thinking to the future a little bit in terms of those sort of sensible career management or even working practices that you can start to develop here. We have a kind of self-development. It was all about the things that you want to learn about. So this is where all your CPDs end up going. So you get practice in terms of writing these and actually how you can personalize and develop your own professional learning here. There's a section based around clinical knowledge. So this is where your monographs come in. So we're looking at building that specific scientific and practice knowledge on common medicines, formulations, so you're more confident in discussing those, and that helps you through OSCEs, through all your kind of other practice-based tasks where you need to show knowledge of your medicines. Green sections is all about research, so this is building you up towards your final year projects, so we get you used to dealing with primary literature, we get you to review some literature. And again, it's a safe space where you're not worrying too much about specific things affecting grades necessarily, so you can actually explore and give it a chance to practice some of those skills here. The blue section is all about feedback. So this is where we want you to reflect and engage with feedback that you're given within the course. It's really important not just to look at the grades and think of the numbers as being the most important, but really to engage with those comments that you get given and how they're going to actually improve you as a student and then moving forward as a practitioner later on. So how you can engage with that feedback. We engage with feedback pretty much throughout the rest of our lives, and how we can be able to deal with them and improve ourselves is really important. So they're the 5 main sections, and they all have slightly different documents or different things that we need to complete to sort of show proficiencies in those areas. So this is all the requirements for part 1. Again, some of it will seem maybe a little bit scary, but again, you can start ticking these off fairly soon. A lot of these you would have completed. Again, there have been sessions throughout the year which have actually helped you to complete some of these, but this is the least chance for me to talk through the important factors. So if we look towards the sort of careers development section, so I've put the colours of the different sections where they relate to. So in the red section, the things that I wanted you to complete would be a CV. Lots of you will have done this, whether you're doing work experience, whether you've got jobs outside of university. But we'd like you to update that with the things that you're learning now, so that by the end you've got a fully functioning CV that you can send off to employers that doesn't need a lot of work at that point. So a CV is really important to, even at the moment, to have a fairly basic one, and over the next 2 years you can add to that and make it a little bit more involved, so that you end up with a really nice professional looking CV. Some things that I've sort of said that would be nice for you to do. So we've got a LinkedIn page for the School of Pharmacy at Reading. I've got a link in the main pages about how to do that. But it's nice for you to have a sort of collective space where we can have you all together. It's a nice way for us to say what our students are up to. Post-graduating, we put quite a lot of information on there as well. Important resources or important or interesting articles that you can have a read through. So it's about building that community there. And again, this is open for all years, so it's a chance for you to sort of integrate with the rest of the course. So it's nice if you can do that. Obviously, this is optional, so we're not making you do this, but it is good for your professional event to have that LinkedIn account, so you can start filling in all those important professional points. And again, your CV can be linked here as well. The CBA we're going to talk about in a different video, but just to say that I've given a kind of an idea that there should be some of the CBA workbook completed each year. Again, go to the CBA video if you want some instruction about what we expect for that. Within the orange section, we would have liked you to have completed Study Smart. Again, we'd like you to complete this. It's not necessarily a sort of pass-fail element. It's just a nice thing that if you had completed at the beginning of last year and you completed that part of the course, is to include your certificate, so it shows that you have completed that and you have those skills that you learned from Study Smart. So if you completed Study Smart, please include it. Now, along with your first personal tutor meetings, which hopefully you've all had, you should have completed something called a learning needs analysis. In the original lecture, I spent quite a lot of time talking you through what it is and how we use it. So again, you may want to view here, but this is all about looking at your learning needs. Hopefully between you and your tutor, you can discuss what is relevant and what was necessary for those. So there should be a copy of that placed in your portfolio. Again, you'll do one of these for each year, so you'll end up doing one of these for year 2 and year 3 as well. There should be a sort of your own narrative of your personal tutor meeting records, just if there are action points, any key points that were discussed, is a good way for you to keep a record of what was discussed here. So there should also be a slight narrative for your tutor meeting records. As a minimum, I'd say you should all at least have had one tutor meeting and a record that goes along with that. Most of you will have 2, so if you've done 2, please include both. Some of you may even had 3. You don't necessarily have to write down every tutor meeting record that you've ever had, because you may end up talking to your tutor sporadically throughout the year, but just try and keep it those official meetings. It's a good way for us to keep track of how our tutors are interacting with you and what the importance and how you kind of used those documents. So the CPD sections. So number 5 is about completing your CPDs. Now, as you're in part 1, you should only be completing unplanned CPDs. Okay, so we'll talk about what an unplanned CPD is in the CPD video, but just to say that in total you should have 6 completed CPDs by the time you start year 2. So this is looking at topics that you find interesting and that you think will help you develop as a student, pharmacist, or other in terms of those. So we'll have a look at that in our separate video. Reflections on learning. Now this was actually originally 5. It's gone down to 4 because we've had this slight complication with obviously this end of term not running quite as planned. So there are 4 key reflections on learning. So this is where we've given you a key element or key learning material, and we want you to reflect on what you learned from that. So the 4 completed entries we would require for you for this year are your 2 IPEs. So you did a team building one in the first term, and you did a meet the patients in the second term. So there are APs, so interprofessional education or interprofessional learning, when you got to mix with another cohort and you get to learn from each other and learn some sort of really important technical skills about how to interact with each other. And again, they're based around important topics to you. So that'll be 2 of your completed entries. The other 2 entries are your placements, so your community and hospital placements. So we want you to reflect back on those placements. Within the portfolio, we don't need you to include the workbooks. If you have them, you can include them, but it is really that reflective statement that we really want you to engage with in this point. The next section is the monographs. So with Dr. Brazier, he took you through what a monograph was and got you to complete a couple of practice ones. So I think you do paracetamol and cetirizine, if I'm correct. So they'll go in there, and then you're expected to complete 3 other monographs that are listed in the yellow section. Okay, so you only need to complete those that are listed. You don't need to do any outside of those. Again, the separate video on monographs will be given as well. Your research element was your what makes staff tick essay. So we've got you to meet up with a member of staff, do a short interview and learn a little bit about them. These are always really interesting to allow members of staff to sort of show you their pathway to where they are today, and then hopefully it enthuses you and gives you some ideas about what goes into pharmacy. So there should be that essay completed. The final section is your reflection on feedback. So this is reflecting on some feedback that you've received for any work that you've got completed throughout this year. It can be in-class feedback even, so if you had some feedback on a PAMS consultation that you wanted to reflect on, so you can look at how you can improve yourself, improve your skills throughout the rest of the year. Obviously it can be an assessment as well that you want to reflect back, and you can sort of say, well, these are the good things that I did and these are the bits that we want to work on. And we really want to see that progression throughout the year. So they're all the key requirements that we need you to do for this academic year. Remember, these need to be completed by the time you start year 2. So if you've still got things to complete, please use your time now to plan when you want to do them, so you're not left with things that you need to worry about moving ahead into the following year. So just to say the upcoming videos that we have, so this is the introductory video, so this is video number 1. Video 2 will be looking at unplanned CPDs, video 3 will be looking at monographs, then we have video 4 which is looking at the CBA specifically and about how to complete elements of that workbook, and the 5th one will look at actually how to upload your documents at some point to the online portfolio. Okay, so if that's been useful, these videos can be used however you want. If you have specific questions for me or your tutors, please contact us. We're here throughout the summer. It may take us a little bit longer to get back to you sometimes, but we will endeavour to come back and answer your questions about anything that you have. Okay, so that's it for this video, and then if you want to join me in any of the other 4 videos, we'll look at specific aspects of the portfolio. Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.